everyone. Thank you for tuning in again to another episode of R3 TV. My name is Felix and Anevay, and today I'm going to be interviewing with my fellow intern here at R3.
Hi everyone, I'm Anevay Perez. I'm an intern here at R3 as well. I'm super excited to be interning with Felix today.
Okay, so Anevay, I want to start it off by asking you a pretty strange question. Yeah, I want to ask you, as like, if there was a zombie apocalypse today, who are three people you'd have on your roster? You know, they could be real or fake. You know, they could be anyone you want. Just who do you think you would have on your team?
I feel like normally I would just say that I wouldn't have a team and I'd just, be done. I probably wouldn't survive. But I guess if I'm thinking about who would give me the best probability to survive, in my opinion, for sure, I would want Daryl from The Walking Dead. I know everybody likes him. I like him too. He's, pretty good. I feel like he would help me be protected. Yeah. I would probably have to have someone that was like also a fast runner because I'm not fast, but maybe like if they get ahead, they can distract them while I get away. So maybe like Bolt, like Usain Bolt. And then probably like the third person that I would want would be someone that's like super strength. Maybe like, I don't know, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Yeah. So I guess I would pick those three. I feel like if I had those three, maybe they could all work in my favor to where, like, since I'm the weakest link, I could get away first, and then they got themselves.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's like two of them are, like, peak of, like, athleticism, right? And then one of them is, like, I wouldn't say he's out of shape, but, he doesn't look – he's nothing like The Rock. But he definitely has that survivalist mentality.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's going to be important. And he might – and who knows? Even though he's, like, one of the smaller guys, he might be, like – maybe he might turn out to be, like, the leader just because of his skills.
He's pretty good with the bow and arrow, too, so.
Yeah. That's pretty prevalent in the show. Yeah, whenever you said Bolt, I thought you were talking about that movie Bolt with the dog.
No.
I was
You're like, that's not a person.
I was like, that's interesting.
That's funny. Okay, so I wanted to ask you if you were coming out on stage, like, let's just say if you were like a boxer or anything, what would be your intro music that you would want?
Oh, man. Intro music. I've never actually thought about this before, interesting, even though I used to be big into WWE. But what I'd say, I think I'd probably want to pull something like John Cena and have, like, my own song as my intro song. I'm not a musician at all, but it'd just be, like, part of just, like, the meme. I mean, everyone, like,
I know. I'm,
John
like,
Cena.
playing the song in my head right now.
Yeah, like, and I don't think it'd be a serious song either. I don't know if I want a serious song. Like, yeah, I can get you in the mood and stuff, but, like, it depends. Like, if I'm WWE, it's just going to be full of just jokes.
Right.
But if I'm, like, UFC, then, okay, it's going to be a little more serious. And, like, it'd probably be, like, a rock song. Probably, like, I don't know, maybe, like, some Van Halen or AC/DC. Like, just, like, generic answers.
Yeah. That's pretty good, though. I mean, you could always just take, like, the background, or you could always even combine, so that would be.
Maybe it could even be, like, instrumental. Maybe not even, like, the words.
Exactly.
Because some of them, they just sound good, like the Iron Man song, the
yeah.
Like, that one. That would be pretty good. That's kind of hard not to get your heart pumping whenever that song comes on.
Everyone's in the crowd like, woo, Felix.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I'll pick up wrestling. Okay, and so I'd like to continue now since, we had some laughs and everything. We kind of set the mood. Is it fine if I start off with the first question?
Sure.
So I'd like to start off by asking, where did you grow up?
So I grew up here in San Antonio, Texas. I kind of moved around. So I've kind of lived everywhere except for maybe like the east side. Oh, but primarily, I guess when we got pretty, like, set in a position, which was, I was about seventh grade, all the way till I graduated, all that time I spent in the south side of San Antonio. and I had previously lived there before. So like there was a few grades in my elementary school years that I had went to schools in the South Side. So if ever like anyone asks me like where are you from, I'm like Southside San Antonio.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I grew up from there. I mean, I honestly loved it. It's where I'm most comfortable. I felt like, to me, it feels like home. Like I see all my family over there, and like even people who aren't my family, they relatively look like my family. So it's to me for sure home. What about you?
Yeah, so I grew up primarily in the South Side too. I had like a little small time, maybe like a year or two, where I stayed like in the West Side. But it's always been like the South Side, as far as I can remember. Like the furthest back I can remember, we lived like kind of like going towards the creek. Remember I told you I used to go to Indian Creek Middle School, and so we used to live right in that area, like in that corner, like by the where those Mexican restaurants and the laundromats are at, going towards the creek. We used to live like in that area for a while. And I never realized how bad it actually was, I guess, just because I was so little. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of stories that can come from living in the South Side of San Antonio.
Right.
It's like, and yeah, but I've always just been in the South Side. I used to live over there, and then I moved. I lived on Five Palms for a long time, and now I live like in same area essentially.
If you could describe like what the neighborhood was like, how would you describe it? Because like me coming from the South Side, I know like people's perception of the South Side, and I know how like they see the South Side. But I feel like when I hear how they see like what or how they think about that side of town, like I think back and I'm like, I never saw it like that. You know, like living in the South Side, I didn't really see it like that. So like how would you describe your neighborhood and everything like compared to the perception of what people already think?
Well, I would definitely say essentially like what you said. Like I didn't experience a lot of it, just because that was never really my thing. You know, I was never in that kind of crowd, fortunately. And like whenever I was in like middle school and high school, I mean, I lived across the street, and from a house, it was like a 2-story brick house.
Oh,
in a neighborhood of all 1-story, old houses. It's like, so I don't think I lived in the essentially like the worst parts, or maybe I just got lucky and I missed all the bad parts. You know what I mean? There's a few things. Some of the perception, I think it comes from just individual experiences that people have. Unfortunately, wrong place, wrong time. Like there's definitely is some truth to it. There'd be people driving around they'd be offering you to buy things, and that's crazy. I wouldn't expect that going to a nicer neighborhood. I just expect an ice cream truck. And but I'd say overall my experience has been good. Like, I never felt unsafe. I mean, I used to in high school a few times I actually would go out for like a jog like 5 o'clock in the morning around the neighborhood, like, and I'd be out for like hours at a time, and I never had any issues. The worst thing was maybe a dog or a squirrel that scared me.
I feel like for the most part, when it comes to like my experience, like of course you would hear about like the shootings or the gangs in this side or whatever, but I feel like when it came to like actually experiencing that, like you kind of would see how they kept to themselves. Like, they were involved with their gang or whoever else that they were like against, but they never like went up to kids like trying to bully kids or like bring them in. So I guess more so for me, it was like maybe like if you were already a part of that world, or if you already had like a family member a part of that world, then you were more involved with that. But I never really experienced like that much of the bad part. Of course you can tell like when driving through that side how it looks a little bit more like poor. But for me, honestly, like I guess just with everything with all of my childhood and everything that I went through, like that never really stood out to me, and I never like even really got to see like nicer parts of towns to where I was like, oh my God, I'm living in a poor side of town. Like for me, it was just like, this is my neighborhood, like this is what life is, and like I mean, it wasn't like, I mean, I wasn't seeing people, you know, get killed or anything like that. So for me, even in jumping, you know, like to different sides of towns, you know, living in different parts of the city, like, and when I think about it, like pretty much all of them were like poor sides of town, but it never really was like anything that stood out to me that I was like, oh my God, like I'm, you know, pretty poor, you know, like I'm in a bad spot. So I get what you're saying for sure.
Yeah, like that little time I told you that I stayed in at the West Side, that was a totally different world. like like there, I never went for walks or anything like that. Because there, it's a different world. Even though it's only maybe 15 minutes away, 20 minutes away, it's it definitely doesn't feel like the South Side. You can tell you're not in the South Side,
right?
And people let you know that you're not in the South Side. Like the people I lived with, they'd be like, they just tell me like, yeah, just maybe don't go with us outside. They're like, it's better you're gonna be here temporarily, so just stay inside.
Yeah,
it's not worth it for you. I'd like to ask, what was the most difficult part of your childhood?
Okay, for me, honestly, at the time of growing up, I never really kind of realized how difficult of a childhood that I had. Now that I'm an adult, I look back and I'm like, okay, oh, I'm an adult and I'm a parent. So, like, I look back and I'm like, well, of course, I would never put my daughter in that situation. And not to say that my mom or, you know, my guardians were purposely putting me in that situation, but it's just, you know, something that I can realize now that wasn't such a good situation. But really, really, like, just being the oldest of my siblings and my cousins, and my mom, she was she like struggled with a drug addiction. So growing up in the beginning, a lot of the time she wasn't there. She would come, you know, in and out and stuff, but we primarily lived with my grandma. So my grandma, she of course didn't really like, she wasn't gonna let my mom bring me into that world. So it was more so like, if you were gonna be, you know, if you're gonna be doing this stuff, you got to stay out of the house. You can come visit, come eat dinner, you know, maybe take a nap or whatever, but after that you have to leave. So for me, that was probably the most toughest part, because I remember, like, as a child always wanting to be with my mom. And a lot of times too, like, I did feel alone. My mom didn't have my first sister until I was already 7. So you can imagine, like, for 7 years I was living with my grandma. I would see my cousins from, you know, here and there, but they didn't really live with us. There was a point in time where my oldest cousin, who's younger than me, she lived with us, but it was only for like a year, if even that. Like, it was really maybe like a school year. So that was pretty fun, because I actually had somebody to talk to, that you know, had somebody to play with. But for the most part, other than that, I was pretty much by myself. So I remember, like, my grandma, she would always work. She would just work and work and work. So even, like, me spending time with her, when we would get home, she'd just be tired, ready to cook dinner, like, let's eat. Okay, I'm going to, you know, relax, go to sleep, whatever. And then I'm just, you know, awake in my room or whatever, time for bed. And I'm just like, man, I really wish my mom was here. And I know, like, that has affected me, like, in my life, you know. Even now, like, I mean, it just makes me now as an adult, like, never want to be alone. Like, I mean, it's not, I've like tried to cope with that and, you know, like, work on that. But even still, like, when I'm by myself, sometimes I get awkward. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'll be on my phone, and then I'm like, but this is weird because I'm by myself. It's so quiet in here. Like, so that would probably be, for me, the biggest struggle that, like, of my childhood, that, like, even affects me to this day.
I think we had a great talk. I'm sorry we kind of kept, like, a low mood, you know. Actually, before we go, what about we do something that gives a little more, let's say, like, hopeful, because, you know, our story has been real low so far. And so I want to say, because you are a mom, I just want to ask you, like how has that affected you? Like it changed like your perspective now that you are a mom. I know you kind of dug into that a little bit, and also maybe like where do you want to be like in a year? Like where do you want to be like for you and your family in a year from now?
So just to, keep it short really quick, as a mom, especially because as a daughter, I've been affected by my mom. Mostly I just reflect. I reflect on, situations that I was put in and, the relationship that I have with my mom. And I just take that as a learning, uh, pretty much a learning tool. I look back and I see, okay, how did I feel in this situation? How do I feel even now? And how do I want my daughter to feel if we were in this situation together? Certain things, that I wouldn't want her to be in or wouldn't want to put her in. So for me, I'm very hopeful, of the parent that I'm going to be, the mom that I'm going to be, and, the life that my daughter has, because I just use my life experience as, something that I take to learn from and to apply it to my life as a parent, but, in a more positive way, in a more beneficial way to my daughter.
Yeah.
In a year, I hope that I'm more financially stable,
Okay.
but honestly, my life is very good right now. Even, though I may not have the financial means, to me, I just want to be able to be happy and enjoy my time that I have here. And being a parent it's so amazing. The the light and the happiness and the love that I get just from seeing my daughter and her growth, it's so amazing. I really I can't explain it any more than that. But, yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna hopefully in a year I get to see my daughter, just hit more milestones, and we get to make more memories, and I'll be content and happy, just with that.
Yeah, I mean that sounds great. I definitely can see how you could be a great mother, and especially now since you do have like that self reflection on your childhood, and maybe about your mom. I can definitely see how you can use that as a tool just to, you know, help guide you in a, let's say, a better direction. Uh, and I feel that's great. That's there's definitely a lot of parents out there like that. But I think you could be a great mom, and a year from now, financially stable. If you really set your goals to, I think you can do it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
How about you, really quickly? Is there anything that you're really looking forward to, or anything that you've achieved so far that you're proud of yourself for?
Yeah. So what I've achieved so far that I'm proud of, I know I kind of touched on like how I say I peaked in middle school and stuff, and it's partly true because I didn't actually fully go to high school. After sophomore year, I stopped attending high school actually, and so I never actually graduated and got my diploma. But since starting R3, um, with the great opportunity that I was provided here, I was actually able to get my diploma, and I think it was only 2 weeks. Um, yeah, and I thought that was gonna be something I wouldn't like get for like maybe a few years or something. It wasn't like immediately on my checklist, but like after like finally like getting into, I would say, a better mindset with people with better mindsets around me, it kind of helped me prioritize like, okay, like I need to get this done. Like it's time, and now I have my diploma. And so now what I'm looking forward to is I'm going to be doing a cyber program actually with dynamic advancement here in San Antonio. And that's going to be in July. And I'm going to be getting certifications towards cybersecurity. And so I'm looking forward to that. I'm really hopeful, that can start a great career for me. And, it's just changed a lot in the past month or two, opposed to where I was, 6 months ago. I would have never came and talked to you 6 months ago. But, just the experience that I've had in 2 months in such a short time has helped me, come out more and, actually start doing things. A long time I was at a stalemate, and now it's like I'm actually starting to, go up a little bit. And so, I just want to carry the momentum forward for the next year, similar to, being financially stable have a job, have a of course everyone wants a paycheck, and just get started on my credit, just start building the foundation so that that I have I can secure a better future.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Honestly, those are really awesome achievements. I'm super proud of you. I know how difficult it must be to, or how much of an impact it might have been for you to feel like you couldn't achieve these things, but to now see yourself in this position. And it only goes up from here as long as you have the drive and the motivation. So, I'm pretty sure everyone will clearly be able to see that you do. I'm just personally super proud of you. I know, we don't know each other that well, but it to me, like, the importance of just saying that, because it is something to be celebrated. It's a great achievement for you to have, and these are good goals for you to set. So I just can't wait to see what you do in the future. It's going to be awesome.